Hey, hello guys. Hope you all doing alright. Yeah, so this stream will be focusing on updating the ZDisp so that, what do we call it? Updating the ZDisp so that the wrinkles are a little bit sharper on the edge of the eye and so that they're on the correct UVs, because I think that's where this is coming from, this red dot. So we're going to solve that. Once we've done that, I'll probably move on to Groom. I need to update the peach fuzz. I whacked up the density earlier because I was doing some close-ups to the eyes off stream. And so I've increased the density of the peach fuzz for the eyes via the override, but now everything else is way too dense. You can see it in the albedo. This is like way too fuzzy. So yeah, we need to go into, paint our maps. We'll probably just increase the density of this area and then decrease the thing overall, because this is kind of insane. But yeah, once we've done that, we'll jump onto some eyelash grooming, I think, and we'll be able to see where it goes from there. So yeah, I'm just going to get straight into it, because there's no point kind of messing around. Let's just get this guy exported. So he's on the correct UV set, I think. Yeah, he is. File, export selection, modeling, Maya, exports, body geo. Get that into ZBrush. So, first thing, we're going to hide everything. Okay, so we got that. We're going to first go to the lowest division of this guy and import this on. So this won't update the UVs of the high res, because that's the issue right now, is we accidentally forgot to turn off UV subdivision, which means that our UVs at render time and our UVs at in ZBrush when it's baking and displacement aren't the same. So we're just going to line those up. So first, I'm just going to make sure the models match, which they now do. So I can go up the subdivision levels, and we got our sculpt in the correct shape. Cool. So now, let's rename this body geo old. Oh, cold. Old. I'm going to append a new geometry. Import the body geometry back on. So now what we're going to do is going to geometry. And they're not quite matching, which is really strange, but... Or maybe they are matching. Oh, they are. Okay, it's just not knowing how to sort the depth in these areas. Weird. But yeah, so we're just going to go into body geo, go into geometry, and we're going to turn off... wait, was smooth UV off? Hold up. What? Okay, I'm very confused. Okay, we need to test something. Let's get into... We've got the high res. I'm gonna go... Nope. Okay, so we got 2 subdivisions higher, which is 420,000. 430,000, sorry. Let's export that. We want to keep the UV coordinates. Export those two. And so this is subdivision 3. Hey Michael, how's it going, man? So, sub D3. Sub D3. Okay, that's that exported. Let's get that into Maya. We just need to compare the UVs. Import. Go to modeling. Oh, I exported that to the wrong place, but that's fine. Okay, it's not exported the UVs. Okay, delete that out. Go back into ZBrush. Just make sure it has UVs. Yeah, it does. Cool. It's just overlapping them, but that's fine. Because it has UVs, so why is it not exporting with them? Do you need to export with texture? for it to work. Export. Okay. File, import. There we go. Okay, so we need to zoom in. This is visibly smooth UVs. You have to enable texture. I thought merge UVs did that, but that's good to know. So, oh no, it isn't smooth UVs. Okay, so why is that baking out wrong? Yeah, that actually wasn't smoothing the UVs. Okay, I'm a little bit concerned now. Why is it baking out so wrong? I might have to rebake it. That's so confusing. Yeah, okay. No. Leave that alone then. Let's go back into ZBrush. I'm going to delete that out then. I'm so confused. Just remove that. Okay. Let's just re-export the ZDisp. In fact, actually, no, while we're here, we may as well update the sculpt as well. So we want symmetry on, because we're still working symmetrically for a little while. Let's go to draw. Wait, not draw. Brush. Modifiers. Turn off a modifier. Okay, let's go to subtool. Oh, not subtool, sorry. Where is he? Polygroups. We can go to division higher. What, sorry? Yeah, so you are. Yeah, I do like it. It's cute. Oh god, Becca's being cute. Stop her, someone. There we go. A bit of a bump going on there. Let's fix that up. Okay. Okay. So that's fine. Let's get that down to its lowest subdiv. Export. We're going to export the body geometry, which actually, let's double check. Should be fine. Yep. Oh, it's smooth normal, sorry about it. Export body geometry. Okay. And while that's doing its thing, see, I'm kind of tempted to start working with the subdiv level 1, because it will solve a few issues we're having with the groom like intersecting the face. But then I can always transfer that later on. So I think that is a little bit more secure to work with. We'll have to see how it turns out. Anyway, let's export these at a higher resolution. So let's go Z plugin. Oh, I need to save my scene actually. Let's go to Preferences. Then go to Undo History, Enable Saving. ZBrush. Okay. So, Z plugin. Multi-map exporter. That's all fine. Create all maps. So we need to go to texturing, publish, ZDisp, and this will all get exported over. What's my resolution? Okay, let's crank that up. So this is like a while on its own, but that's fine. Texturing, publish, ZDisp. Okay, while it's going, let's just go and update our Maya file. And then by extension we can update the alembic that is being rendered. So I'm just going to File, Import. I'll grab that body geometry. So now that we've got grooms on our mesh, we need to treat it a little bit differently from the way we have been doing. Granted, I don't think we need to re-export anything. But I will anyway, just to be safe. I need to do some pipeline tests at some point. But yeah, so we need to select the old geometry. Delete the history on it, go to the rendering menu, render, no, not render, texturing, create texture reference object. That's fine. Then I want to blend shape, so that's reduced volume, okay, so blend shape that, go to modeling, deform, blend shape. Hey Ian, how you doing, man? There we go. So that's moved all the guides with it. Delete the history on it, which allows me to delete the reference, because the guides are now in the right place. Yeah, that's tracked. Okay. So then we just need to go to these guys. Show those. I have to regenerate those. Okay. That's all working. It'll be reseeded, but it's working. And we'll have to do some work on the... Oh, hello. What groom are you part of? I'm guessing eyebrows. Oh, that's the wrong things. Yeah, it is. What the fuck? I thought that was fixed in the most recent version. Either way. let's select all these and just export them one by one. Although, again, I don't think you have to, but it'd be good to know for sure. And we'll need to update the maps for the peach fuzz. If I'm doing this blend shape thing with XGen, if I delete the history on the mesh, does it screw my groom? So in theory it does. However, I've never personally had it break from deleting history. So I'm not entirely sure, man. I mean, it's worth testing, for sure. Maybe just do like a sphere groom or something and just see how it goes. Doing well, going for a new company in a few months. Oh, nice, man. Are you able to say where you're going? Export, going for selected node. Going to miss NPC. Ah, fair enough, man. NPC is cool, but I'm sure you got a good reason to go do a new thing. It's always fun to kind of, you know, try out new shit. Okay, let's go Yeti, export, growing for selected Yeti node. Okay, we got all that. So that's all updated. So let's just get cache, Alembic, export selection to Alembic. We'll go to modeling, publish, select that guy. Visibility doesn't actually affect anything, so we're not writing the visibility. Blur Studio, are you familiar with? Oh, of course, man. Yeah. I feel like everyone knows who Blur are. They're really, really good. They did, my favourite thing of theirs is the Halo 2 anniversary cinematics. Like, stunning work there. Yeah, they're another one of those companies that I wanted to work for. Groom here is a bit confused. I used to do some stray clumps, is something I realised earlier as well. So there's currently like basically no clump noise that actually does anything. Yeah, we need to do a lot of guide work over here. So that's all that exported. That's all that created. So now we can just go into the Arnold Utilities TX Manager. We've got ZDisp in here. So we can remove selected TX. And then that's just going to process all the textures. Oh no, Jesus reacted to my stream post. Jesus is lurking. Becca, are you cooking onions? Are you cooking onions? My eyes just started going. No, it's okay. I just found it. I was like, why am I tearing up? Why am I crying? Weird. Someone just made it over to me. Yeah, I'm just like sat here baking displacement, like, why am I crying? Yeah. Yeah, there we go. So, that's that good enough for now. So get that closed. Okay. This is fine. We are going to have to work on the peach fuzz a little bit, but I think that's primarily a map thing right now. Although one thing I'm not too keen on is the fact that currently my peach fuzz grow node is set to half the guide length, which is not very nice of a workflow, so I'm going to quickly update that. So what we'll do is we'll show the peach fuzz groom, and what I'm going to do is half the length of like all of these. which is a really easy thing to do actually. And then we need to go through and correct the flow of some of these. Yeah, there's a few guides that aren't doing what they're told. Okay, so we'll go into Groom. Give that a moment. Okay, then go into Attribute Paint, grab this guy. So if you want to quickly halve the length of everything, the easiest way I've found to do that is to fill paint with 0, but then with a alpha. So I'm trying to see where that is. Strength, there we go, 0.5. So if I flood fill this to 0, but with a opacity of 0.5, it's the same as halving the value. Now that doesn't work for doubling, it only works for dividing, but that's fine. So do that, then flood, and that's halved all the length of the guides. So we'll get some guide work in there, but for now, let's just go to add guides. I'm going to enable that so I can see where I'm placing them. And let's get the comb out. And we'll have to increase the length of some of these guys, but not yet. Okay, let's get some guides in here. Strands, conform these strands. Okay. We're just going to resample all these by count. Okay. So we need the length to go up over this area, so I'm just going to go 0.1. The peach fuzz starts to blend in a little bit here. So you want the peach fuzz length to increase slightly. It's also a little bit longer up here, but I need to be careful how much I increase all this stuff. Because these might be too long now. Stuff like that will do. Okay, let's get some guides there. Resample. Okay, I'll just elevate this guy to straighten them out. Then come. There we go. So now we just go into the actual groom itself, because it's set to half the length, which is going to make it really, really short. So we'll just go into there, go to the Yeti graph editor. Okay, so let's go into that grow node. And we're just going to set the length multiplier to 1, so it's now the full length of the guides. I don't know why the eyebrow is growing here. I'm hoping that will just disappear in the actual renders. If it doesn't, we're going to have to find a way to prune that. But yeah, so... And there is a way I could do it, which is set length to 0, because Yeti automatically prunes hairs with a length of 0. But for now, let's just get this guy selected. Yeti, export, groom from selected Yeti node. And then get peach fuzz. Okay, got that. Then we're just going to open Mari, and we'll just update the maps for that. Because yeah, this is a bit crazy. So for now, we'll double whatever value is around the eyes, and then half the total count. Just so that the area around the eyes that I matched as close as I could in some close-up renders, which I should probably do on stream at some point. But yeah. And at some point, fairly soon I'm gonna switch to to subdiv level 1, just so that I've got a little bit higher res to work with in my Grim. Which I'm not sure how that works actually, pipeline wise. We'll have to see. Like, do I need that to ricochet through the entire project after ZBrush basically? Like Mari doesn't need it because it doesn't operate on world space really. Well, it kind of does, but not enough for it to matter. Okay. Got the eyebrow guides in there. Okay, so let's go into Peach Fuzz data. We're just going to go density. Okay, so it's too sparse around here. So we're just going to grab, where is he? The color picker. Select that value. And that gave us a value of what exactly? Okay, so let's double that to 2.5. Well, not exactly double, but close enough. And mirror projection. Yep. When you export hair, you render geometry in Katana, or is there a Yeti version shared with your settings? I'm not sure what the last bit means. I'm assuming you're like saying, is there shit. Is there a like Yeti plugin in Katana? In which case, yes, actually it comes with Arnold by standard, which is incredibly helpful. Typing on a cell phone is hard. Oh, yeah, you're watching on a stream on a cell phone. Impressed. But yeah, so basically, oh, this is interesting. Oh shit, sorry. Peach Fuzz density. That is very bright. There we go, that's better. So we'll double up. But yeah, so Arnold comes with a Yeti kind of reader when you install it for Katana. So there's a Arnold Yeti node. I can show that in a moment. I'm just going to get this done first. So let's get the slow flow, which is in basic brushes, or super soft. I always mix and match slow flow and super soft. Okay, so it's increasing the density around the eyes. Well, reducing it there, but that doesn't matter. Might increase it slightly higher actually, so I can decrease everything else. In fact, yeah, let's do that. I'm going to set this to 0.3 gray value. Oh, that won't be duplicating on the other side. Alright. Okay, we're just going to have to duplicate that up. Okay, there we go. And I guess we're going to step down the density in the nostrils, because I'm going to have a nose hair grin for that. Oh, hey Chloe, how you doing? Still catching up with the last ones from the Pero. Fair enough. Let's increase the density on the ears, just on the outside of the ear though. Like on the helix. That's fine down there. Okay, we got that. So that should like export fine now. Such a weird look. I guess again to perspective. Okay. Export this guy. Export current channel flattened. Okay, and then so we're just going to go into Katana. So yeah, so Mike, what I was saying is you get these Yeti nodes in Katana with Arnold. It just comes with K2A. And basically it's just a glorified import-o-matic. So it's called the Arnold Yeti node. You give it a path to you give it a path to where you want it to be in the scene graph. You give it a path to the .grm file, and then sorry, just thinking that should do. And then once it's got that path, you also give it a path to where your maps are stored, and then it will give you all the overrides that you're used to seeing. So you get your density override, length override, width overrides, the way you want it to render, whether you want it to be ribbon, an oriented ribbon, or a thick tube, which I think is a really nice little feature. Not sure what the bounding box options do in terms of like actual usefulness. But you know, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so I think that's all that done. That should all work. So let's just start a render with that. I don't need to save my scene because I've not actually updated Katana anyway. Into the albedo. So it's looking more promising than the last one. Granted, it's still in that early sampling stage where it doesn't actually catch everything, but going to normals. Yeah, that's updated. Good, good, good. It looks a bit more promising now. We've not got all those crazy amount of hairs. We've still got them, and it's possibly still too many. I need to look for some really contrasty lighting to test it with. This seems new. I'm hoping that's just a firefly that will resolve itself. Looks like it's going to resolve itself. Just really, really bright noise in the inner eye. It feels like it's moving a bit too much now. Either way, as a whole, that's looking promising. Still a bit dense, but it's not as bad as it was. Although we've lost quite a lot around the eye, so maybe we need to go even dense on the eye. I'll do a focused render around the eye. We'll see how that looks. I'm just going to go into the catalog and grab that guy. We'll let this get like fully clean. While that goes, I'm just going to start setting up the next groom. So let's grab the head geometry. Oh yeah, I need to hide the peach fuzz. Peach fuzz gets completely in the way. Okay, so get the head geometry, go Yeti, create Yeti node and mesh. This one's going to be fur eyelashes. Okay. And then go create groom on mesh. This one will be fur eyelashes GRM. Okay. So I'm just going to fur eyelashes, import scatter grow, and we'll get a quick mask and density map painted. It's not a million miles away. I need to increase it a little bit. I think we can decrease everything even more. So let's go into this guy, parameters, set it down to like 5, which should be good for most of the skin. And we'll just paint a higher density around the eyes. So I'm going to paint through because I'm not too worried about the back of the head. In fact, actually, better yet, I can do some depth masking. Painting, so if I set paint through, we will enable a depth mask, which is set very far away. Interesting. But yeah, so... Oh, mass preview enabled, there we go. Okay, so we need to set that to be incredibly strong. Okay. So... yeah, there we go. So if I set it to paint through, I can now paint, let's say, 0.5. Although 0.4 is probably okay. We'll go to 0.4. Paint that over this area. And let's just preview that in flat. Okay, there we go. Pick that out. And so the depth mask will just stop me from painting the back of the head. Okay, we don't want to preview that in full. There we go. So we'll get that saved out. Okay, so Pt first density, export flattened, export current channel. Although I might need to go higher, right? We'll see. Okay, so now we need to get some other maps. Let's create a duplicate of this guy for now. Okay, we'll start naming all this stuff. So let's go Peach Fuzz data. So we're just going to call that eyelash data. Okay. Then we got for eyelash mask or eyelashes. Okay, copy that. Go to this guy. Okay, then go into this guy, replace that with the word density. Copy into that guy. Okay, there we go. So we'll just rename that eyelashes. Okay, so we'll go into our mask. So the mask is the first thing we need to paint. I'm going to just fill this with black. So I don't know if there's an actual fill anywhere. So I'm just going to paint. Okay, so go to shelf, strength of 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, let's think, I need to preview this with full so I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to do something kind of dumb, and we'll see how it goes. I'm going to paint a value of 1 for just a tiny strip, like that. And then I'm going to go into the UVs. In fact, that doesn't do symmetry. Okay, we're just going to have to do that around the whole thing. Let's go into orthographic. Oh, that's ortho UV. Okay, ortho. That'll just stop the brush from getting bigger or smaller. I'm going to fix the back of the eye later. Not too worried about that right now. Okay. Paint of eye back in there. So the reason I'm spending so long trying to get a uniform thickness to this is because eyelashes are really finicky. Because they cover such a small area, they're really, really sensitive to density increases, which means that if you increase... This isn't painting now. I love it when this happens. It's great. There we go. So if you have a mask that varies in thickness, you actually get more or less hairs quite frequently, and it's really, really annoying. So you need to make sure that your map is as close to what's the word I'm looking for right now? As close to uniform thickness-wise as possible. We're going to cut through that bit there. There we go. And we definitely don't want the hairs to go that far back on the eyelid shelf. This is why having topology that follows where things should go is also really helpful. Because if your topology is always like roughly half a face wide in terms of like where your eyelashes should go, it makes it really easy to paint this sort of map. So you can just look at like the thickness compared to the wireframe. Makes things really easy. I should probably turn on lazy mouse or something, but okay. There we go. That'll do for the mask. So next one is the density, which we're just going to flood to 0.5 for now. In fact, no, we're not. We're going to flood it to 0.5 and then paint 0.25 on the bottom. Generally speaking, you have half the amount of eyelashes on the bottom lid as your top lid. It's a very, very general rule and is broken more often than it's kept, but I find it as a really helpful starting point. Same with width as well. Width tends to be a bit thinner on the bottom, so when I'm starting off, I will use the density map as my width map as well. Although in this case, we can very easily just branch that into its own channel and just keep it a width map from the beginning. That's one of the strengths of Mari in this case. So let's paint a value of 0.5. I'm just going to go into grey, go 0.5. There we go. So just get back into basic. Okay, and we're just going to create a new channel. I don't know why it went there by default, but okay. This one's going to be for eyelashes width. Okay, there we go. So we got all that done now. We can export those ones. So for eyelashes, export flattened, export current channel, channel.tiff. Okay, then we go down one, export current channel. Okay, and then we go down one more, and export current channel. Okay, there we go. So we'll close this, archive it. Projects, personal projects, John Singer Sargent, nope, not a project. Texturing, Mari, body, archive, and we're going to increment this. And my file size has gone down again. Weird. Okay, so let's throw this onto default. Okay. So we want to first off go grab the path for this. Did you have any chance to see the Avatar Way of the Water teaser? Any thoughts? I quite like it. I think it looks cool. It brings up a larger discussion I've been having with people recently, where the amount of people I've heard saying it looks like a video game, in terms of like actual visuals, just blows my mind. Like, obviously in terms of like theme and the way it's shot and the way the movements are, yeah, it's kind of video gamey, but in that kind of over-the-top action way. But like, I've seen a surprising amount of comments online being like, oh, the visual effects look like it's gone backwards. It's like, do these people have eyes? Like, it's objectively improved in a lot of ways. It's been making me quite mad recently, honestly. But that's a discussion for a different day, I guess. Oh, I wasn't talking about your comment, Becca. Yeah. Yeah, I know how you meant it. I've seen quite a few people like trying to say it actually look like a video game in terms of visual quality, like model and texture and look diff. And I was just like, why? Like, what? Right, so let's get this on there. Alright, that goes to density. Okay, so we got that. We're going to massively increase this. Okay, and we're just going to replace the two maps. So we're going to replace eyebrows with eyelashes. And then this one will go to eyelashes. Oh wait. Okay, there we go. I've seen those comments on Twitter as well, baffling. I mean, anything you see on Twitter is baffling these days. There's a reason I haven't had a Twitter account in years. Right, so we're gonna up this quite a bit. Let's go 400. That'll do as a placeholder, I think. We're gonna have to go in and redo the mask at some point, but that's fine. We got the grow in there, which is fine. Let's add a little bit of length variation. But let's bias it towards the top. Bias is a really, really helpful tool. So it allows you to get a huge amount of length variation, but still keeping it broadly looking the same. We need a comb, obviously, which is going to do nothing. We need clumps, which will do something. The clumps need a mask like that. Okay. Create a clump node. Scatter. Okay. And as always, clump radius, I like to do a number divided by the length. So shorter hairs, oh no, multiplied by the length, sorry. So that shorter hairs can't reach the clumps as well. And we can just kind of go 0.5 times the length. Something like that. In fact, let's go 0.3. Granted, it's not going to make much of a difference at this stage, but yeah. Once we've got that, we'll get a width node in there, which I'm going to do. Where is it? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, get that in there. Let's go into the eyebrows and just quickly copy the nodes I was using for that. So we've got the width. Okay, eyelashes. We're going to throw that into width multiplier. I'm going to go for eyelashes. The expression, just going to double that. That seems excessively thin. I don't want the length multiplying that actually. Why is it so thin looking? Oh yeah. Ugh, right, okay. Something like that. And it's not a huge amount of uneven taper. Something like that will do. Okay. 0.5 was it? A bit lower. I'll say a bit lower. A lot lower. Okay, so we got that. And we finished, yeah. Perfect eyelash groom. Okay, so I think that will do as a starting point for modifiers. We'll obviously need to add strays and stuff, but I'm not too worried about that right now, because we need to get guides in there first. So let's hide our guides, Alt-Save. I'm going to kill off Mari now, because I don't think we need it right for a little while. Keep resources. So we've got eyelashes groom. We're just going to do this. Add guides. We want to mirror. So I'm going to start off by placing one single guide. And we cut that to the length that we want once we've done that. Okay, so we'll just trim. Okay, get another guide. This one we'll set to conform. So it'll be roughly the right length. Something like that will do. Ugh, really? Why isn't that? What? Okay. We'll groom asymmetrically for a little bit. Okay. Add a few more guides. Get a guide there. Get a guide there. Get a guide there. Get a guide there. And get a guide there. I said a guide, but okay. Okay, there we go. It'd be nice if there's a way to kind of push that out. I don't know if direction will do what I want, but let's give it a go. Yeah, not far off. moves the curl a little bit too much, but it will do as a temp thing. Okay, we'll get into the... And we need to rebuild all these. There we go. So these are curling a bit too much up. Okay. So you next. Okay, I'm just going to cut these like that. Okay, so we'll mirror that over, although that guide needs a little bit of straightening up. Okay, there we go. Mirror all those. Now we can work symmetrically again. Okay. So then let's add some guides down here. Resample. Okay. Let's get another guide along here. So these guides are going to be half the length. Let's resample that. Let's just get it all curling down for now. Wonder if the fall off for how it picks its guides, like conformation, wonder how much of that is surface based rather than volume. In terms of like, if I make it so that the guide's like on the two ends, will it conform just to the ones on the bottom lid, or will it still take influence on the top lid? Something like that. Let's give that a test. Follow the same line to there. Resample you. Okay, let's give it a go. This should just point down. Kinda, it tried. So, okay, the interpolation is volume based, not surface. Because these guides are really far away on surface, but not far away on volume. Okay, there we go. We're gonna need a lot more guides, I think, by the end. Eyelashes are something that I also really struggle with. Like eyelashes and facial hair. And this guy has both. So, yeah, fuck me. Resample that. We can ignore that. Okay, now we want to go around and cut these guys to be shorter. Stuff like that will do. As a placeholder, that will be eyelashes. So now what we need to do is go into our graph editor. We need to connect up the eyelashes first, so we'll select that. We need to add the, not IO. I always go to IO. It's in graph. Input grooms. We need to add our eyelash groom. Okay. So that is now able to be selected as an influence. So we'll create an import. We're just going to go in, set that to be a groom. Plug it into the grow. Plug it into the grow. So there we go. And plug that into the comb. And plug that into the comb as well. Okay. So that area is getting kind of screwed over. Which to me means we need to add guides to this lower layer as well. To kind of help force the guides up. Or just add guide clumping, but I don't like doing that too much. Okay, so I actually didn't change my density map, did I? So the same density and width, top and bottom. So let's get Mario back open. Right, so... typical. Go on. Mario license error. Let's try again. There we go. Sometimes using the one down here like makes it think I've not got a license. And I haven't figured out what causes that yet. Okay. Okay. So we'll get into that density map. And just quickly paint a lower value. So let's go with 0.25. So just half. Paint through. Mirror projections. And for now we're just gonna solid brush this. I said we'll solid brush this. There we go. Okay, there we go. So we need to export our density. At some point I need to check if Yeti can read TIF files. Because TIFF files are unique in that there's two ways to spell it. I guess JPEG has that too, right? Because there's JPG and JPEG. But remember, I think it's Randoman doesn't support TIF files, but it does support TIFF files. Which blows my fucking mind. Like, how is that like a feature? Because they're literally the same format. You can just rename the file and it will read it. Right, okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit of width random. There we go. And we're going to increase that density of a chunk. Let's go 600. Okay, let's go 0.2 multiplied by length. Yes, something we can do is add the guides into this. So let's do a convert. We want to convert the... I think it's that way around. Let me just save this before I preview it. Okay, so we'll convert that. Okay, that worked. Then we will merge. I hate the fact that you can't do that. Merge these two together. Okay, and then we'll plug that in. So now it can clump to the guides and to hairs below, which will help this area a little bit. So I'll just do that. Okay, so for that we'll do increase that a fair chunk to get more hairs. weird. Still poking down. Wonder why that is. These hairs are visibly close to that guide. We'll just need more guides to kind of help pull all this together. For now, let's get some scraggle in there. Not like that though. Okay, we want that to be like 1 at most, with 0 root scraggle because this is eyelashes. Okay. Okay, we'll go 1.5. That area again. Weird. We need more guides. Yeah, way more guides. Alright, let's get that in. Can I add guides live? Is this going to work? Like, what's the performance going to be like in this? Yeah, a little bit too slow. Update frequency on release. Okay. Reseeds it every time, it's kind of annoying. Okay, we're just gonna have to remove that. Okay, just going to go into attribute paint. Okay, add you. I'm not currently looking at ref, which is pretty bad. I should get some ref up. Go to the ever trusty Daniel Beauchamp. Let's have a quick look. What face is going to be best for this guy? Person looks really interesting. Yeah, I need them to point more down. Mine are pointing too far up. Mine are kind of like beautified. Let's check this guy. This guy's been a faithful. Yeah, we need them to point down or across at least. These ones are super spread out. It's a really wide area that they can appear from. Okay. They're also very uniform. Like the spacing of them, so we'll have to put that in as well. Oh, I need that actually. Don't need that. Okay, so we need all these to be pointing down or across at most, which they kind of are, but they point down a bit too much. Okay, that'll do. Let's get a guide in there. Resample. Resample that. Okay. Let's get another guide in some of these wider areas. Sample that. Let's set that segment length to be like half what it currently is. So when it generates a new guide, it goes off segment length. It doesn't go off the way you have it set here. So throw that in. The guides are now a bit smoother, although still not right. Maybe it has to go even lower. I don't really care enough though. Let's just throw these together. Okay, got that going. So we'll need a guide in here. Okay, then one more guide. I'm going to worry about adding like actual variation to the guides at a later point. Okay, there we go. Might need to point a bit further down. What if I go into direction? Nope, that doesn't work. Comb. If we invert that, in fact, if we push the entire thing. There we go, that's better. Comb set to like a full thing like this is basically just a move tool, but for like the entire angle of the guide. And it maintains the shape as well, which is quite nice. Okay, there we go. So, if this doesn't work, we will need to add a few more guides. So let's go a few more guides like, you know, the layer below and the layer above. But that's not too difficult to do. It just looks a bit funky. So, yeah, let's get this tested. Okay, get to the outliner. We're going to show eyelashes. Okay, yeah, it's still kind of broken. We're going to need some guides there. We also need some guides on this edge, although that shouldn't be going that far, should it? Okay, we'll edit groom. We need more guides. Always need more guides. Okay. They are functional enough for me to not worry about them, so we'll just quickly do that. Resample, and that will do. And this guy, I'm gonna baby step out. I'm gonna have to cut him. Sculpt. So, the way that we need to do all this shit, and I hate doing this, but sometimes you just have to, is we need to go in and add a guide for here, 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 here. We basically just need to get all of these hairs for the tip to reach the same point as the guide above it. Okay, so we'll select all these. Okay, and we'll just quickly correct those to be as close as we can get them. They don't need to be perfect, because it is just to correct guides that don't know what to do otherwise. Length does need to be the same though. And we do need to go in the same direction. But that'll do for the most part. I'm just going to add a little bit of length here. On this side. Okay, that'll do. Cut them. And technically you can sometimes have to do the same for the top lid as well, or the top part of the lid. I like to color code the guides, however Yeti doesn't let me do that. At least I don't think it does. So I just have to kind of ignore them. But yeah, so let's go. We should now be able to add these in. That should solve the issue. There you go. That's the issue fixed. Okay, so now we need to do the same up here, don't we? Fuck's sake. Let's just go into Yeti. Yeti Graph Editor. Okay, the noise might be causing a bit of the issue. Oh, we don't want that at all. Okay. That helps a little bit. Okay. So we need these to be a little bit more uniformly spaced, and that's the clumps, not the hairs. I actually preferred it without that, so let's remove that. The hairs definitely do need to be more uniform though. Distribution, let's go 2. Is there a way for me to get this to stay within the mask? Oh yeah, I need to multiply the length by the mask. Okay, so length multiplier needs to be the mask. There you go. So I hope that actually prunes the points. In fact, let me, we can test this. If I remove that. So what's the number of 366 fibers? Oh, it actually is, okay. It's not deleting the points. It's just making them so short that they can't render. Do we want to keep that? I'm not sure. Let's go denser, let's go 1200. Scatter. So there is face set, but I don't know if I can use a face set. That'll do. As a placeholder, that will be okay. I'm really not sure if I want to keep the length multiplier in there though. But then that just looks a bit chaotic, doesn't it? Like, all I can do is just make the mask more narrow. So 2 doesn't do too much to it. You can kind of get away with it. There's some points that go a little bit awry. Maybe we can multiply the width by that. We'll see how this looks. A little bit too dense, right? Okay. It's weird how everything gets completely reseeded. May need to create a separate geometry for the eyebrows, maybe. Wait, it doesn't clump to those at all. Is it just... Can I get away with that? Can I get away with guide clumping for the eyelashes? The problem with guide clumping is it forces me to start doing random guide spacing, which is an issue in of itself. But like, this is straight up ignoring. What if I plug you in there and then you in there? Do we get the opposite effect? Does it just ignore? It does. Oh, okay. Well, that's great to know. You can't merge. Why can't you merge curves together before clumping? So it means you need to do a percentage of hairs that clump to these and a percentage of hairs that clumps to these. I mean, you can. Like, you'd have to do this weird shit, but if I was to copy paste this, and just set it so that as a percentage of weight, flyway won't be the same. Flyway does. Oh wait, flyway does actually work the same in this case. Alright, sick. Is that the only way to do it? Clumping procedural, and clumping guides. So I'm just going to replace that bit. But then that, in essence, like doubles up. I'll try that, see how it looks. Get the random eyelash up there. Oh, actually, we need to go into... That's not actually doing anything. The tip is getting completely jacked up by all this. Okay. We'll use that as a starting point. Okay, so I guess rather than doing it as a percentage, we could do it as a much smaller radius. So it's going to be a much less noticeable thing, but it'll help us when we need it. So it's got half the radius. It still has that procedural edge to it. Then yeah, we'll need to do some mask work, because this is kind of crazy. for now I'm going to turn off the relax. And we'll see if we need to add that in there. Why is that getting so jacked up? It's that noise that's doing it as well. It's going to create a new scraggle. Is the length attribute getting destroyed? If I ignore that length attribute where I can, turn off the root scraggle. I have a feeling it's that. Let's set that to like 2. It's still happening. That's actually kind of cool. That's a bit of wiggle in there. Kind of like that. Okay, so we'll add that in and we'll add the scraggle after it. This one's going to be just for the strays. We need to make a clump map at some point as well. Ease all this out. Okay, so let's get that exported. So we're going to go to Yeti, export, groom from selected Yeti node. Okay. And we're going to get that in. So save our scene. Okay, so we're going to have to duplicate one of these guys. Let's duplicate the eyebrows. Have to, this is important. There we go. For eyebrows, so we'll replace that with lashes. Apply that with eyelashes. Replace that with eyelashes. Let's keep it consistent. Lowercase l. Come on. Okay. We definitely want to render fix, it's just eyelashes. Okay. That will go in. For now, we'll assign the eyebrow material, and we'll create, if this works, we'll create a separate material. So we're just going to duplicate this guy. Oh, we can't, okay. Custom. Then replace the brows with lashes. Okay. Let's save our scene and alt save. Hey Oscar, how's it going? You finally got your blended scene. Got 1 FPS during interactive rendering. I mean, to be fair, for renders, it's pretty good. Basically came here to say goodnight and have a little sneak peek how the project's coming along. Damn, that hair looked good. Thanks, man. Very much appreciate it. So if this works, we'll start doing some close-up renders of the eyelashes, because I want them to be surface shaded. I want to kind of push the workflow a little bit. It looks like they're working. Might be a little bit chunky right now. They're very chunky. I'll let it clean up a little bit. Oh god, they're so chunky. Is that the hair that's doing that, or is it the length, or is it the clumpiness? Or is it the distribution? That is also possible. I think it's a length thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do... It looks so funny. What GPU are you rendering with? Well, that would assume I'm rendering with GPU. I'm not rendering with a GPU. I have a 2070 Super, which I'm hoping to upgrade pretty soon. I'm trying to figure out if I want to go for a workstation card or if I just want to go for a high-end gaming card. Obviously, if I go high-end gaming, I'll be going with the 3090. No point getting a Ti because I don't need the gaming performance. But I'm kind of also looking at the RTX A4000s because they're not much more performance than what my current card is, but they have 16 gigabytes of VRAM and it's a single slot card, so it's like very light, and it's only 180 watt TDP. Not TW. Why have I forgot the acronym? Basically, power draw is really low. Okay, so I actually really like that 4 highlight thing. I might try to do a nice light setup at some point. Create a studio light setup. Anyway, I'm going to go in, disable my fluid materials, except for meniscus, we can keep that, and render with the close-up camera. Like this. $3090 for €999. Jesus Christ, where? I'll turn off the skin shader as well. Just render a little bit quicker. Guess 4090 to be crazy expensive. So for me, the 4090, I'm not really worried about the price because honestly, like, I don't upgrade GPU often, so price isn't really too much of a factor. Like, I'm not going to be buying a RTX A6000 anytime soon because that's the price of my full workstation. But I'm not really worried about the price. What I am worried about is the amount of power that the new cards supposedly use. Like, if they're as high as they say, I refuse almost out of principle to use them. Like, I don't want to use something that is so poorly optimized. We need to go into that. Go into the test cam, close up, zoom out a tiny bit, and start new render. Yeah, there we go. Let's just let that render for a moment. I should update the basic material now. It doesn't need subsurface anymore. This will make it render a lot quicker. It'll also look a lot worse, but that doesn't matter. So basic material is there just to kind of make sure everything has a material. There we go, that's faster. Okay, so let's get the... Yeah, so too thick is the first thing I notice. The bottom lids are almost right. The bottom lid's are a bit too thin, top lid's definitely too thick. So let's go in. I'm going to first off start with an override. Because when you add this thick mode, it does seem to get overall a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go like 0.7 width. So yeah, way too thick. Way too thick. Actually, looking at this reference, the eyelashes are similar width now on this guy. They're a little bit thicker here. They're way thinner over here. But like this bit and this bit are pretty similar. This is a little bit thicker, but I don't think it's double. 0.7 looks a lot better. Would you ever consider rendering with GPU? Honestly, no, not with the way my projects tend to turn out. I've got a tendency of like going out of my way to make things heavier almost. Like, I like to test out shit. And as part of that process, I pretty frequently go like really high on RAM usage, like my grooms and stuff. Like, I think Sticky Monsters got to the point of using 42 gigabytes of RAM. If I was rendering GPU, I'd need 42 gigabytes of VRAM for that, which is two 3090s. And hell no. Like, two 3090s is just overkill. Like, one friend I have on Facebook recently posted like his setup, and he's got four 3090s right now, and I was just like, what the hell is this dude rendering that he doesn't show on Facebook? Like, because it's such a heavy like amount. It did make me laugh. Okay, so we need to paint a width map. That's a bit more detailed. I think overall though, the groom itself isn't going to hold me back too much. I think the mask needs to come in a bit. So I'll make the mask smaller. Or out of core rendering. Yeah, but the problem with out of core rendering is you pretty much immediately sacrifice the speed advantage that GPU gave. Like, I used to use Redshift when I was at Blue Zoo, and I found whenever I went out of core, it was pretty comparable speed-wise to CPU rendering. Granted, you could then argue, oh well, you know, if out of core is the same speed as CPU, why not just do it anyway? Because the worst it can do is what you used to have. The question is stability. I like to be able to predict my render times, and it's also an element of, if I build a rig for CPU rendering, I can focus all the money on that. Whereas if I go out of core, like, I mean, a lot of these hybrid renderers would need both, but like, I feel like the amount I'd have to spend on GPU just isn't worth it. Again, granted though, again, like if I was doing more simple scenes, absolutely. But because the scenes I do are almost pointlessly heavy, it's not really worth the effort, in my opinion. Okay, so we need to get in and start painting some maps. Let's go to here. I was going to paint a create a paint node. That will do just fine. Okay, grab this guy. Okay, connect you up. And we're just going to fill this with 0.5. Okay, so we want the width to be a little bit lower. There we go. So let's go with this. X, set us to be 0.3. Okay. that in there. We're going to want to go in with super soft. Okay. And we're going to go in even lower with like 0.2. Just paint that corner there. Then we'll just size down the edge over here. There we go. There's a general width map. Export flattened, export current channel. Okay, once we've got that, we'll update the mask as well. Okay, so we're going to go into... Oh, we're already in ortho. Good, good, good. Okay, just going to get that brush. Go. It's a little bit thinner. Oh shit, I've missed a few messages. Hey Thomas, hey, maybe you already talked about this, but what is your workflow to bring Yeti to Katana? So it's actually really simple, a lot more simple than you'd expect. So basically, you select a Yeti node, you go to Yeti, export GRIM from selected Yeti node, and that will create a GRM file wherever you put it. Then in Katana, you can create a Arnold Yeti node, so Arnold Yeti, and that comes stock with Arnold. It's not even a Yeti node; it's actually comes stock with Arnold in Katana. And then in here, you just add your .grm file, and the name above that is just where it will store it in your scene, and it creates it as a render procedural. It's a really nice system, really, really nice. How heavy would your scenes get by the end? It varies hugely. I think the heaviest scenes I've ever made were Sticky Monsters, where I just put displacement on fucking everything, and most surfaces had a groom, and it got kind of heavy. It depends on in context though. Like professionally, I try to keep my scenes a little bit lighter, because with home projects, my pain threshold is higher. Although at work I have a render farm at my disposal, I still need to, respect the lighting artists. Where in personal projects, I don't have to respect my own time if I don't want to. So if I want to fuck about with crazy, detailed shit that takes a lot of energy to render, then so be it. I can do that. Oh shit, I'm painting through. Okay, we're gonna have to... Yeah, okay. I just realized I'm painting through this whole time. Let's get into the UV view. There we go. Okay. Also, for some reason, when I use out of core, for some reason Blender takes insane amounts of disk space anyway. Don't know why. 32 gigs used up. Does it eat disk space? I'm not sure. Ryan is definitely a better person to ask on that. He's pretty good with Blender. I mean, I can't guarantee Ryan knows. That'd be unfair of me to say. But he's much more likely to know than I am. I've used Blender a handful of times. My very first 3D scene was possibly Blender. I remember doing some kind of bathroom tutorial years and years ago. And when I say years and years ago, I mean like 2008, 2009. And then I didn't use it again until 2.73, which I think was 2018, 2017, and I didn't use it again for a few years. I like to check in on it from time to time to see if it's you know, standard yet. It never is. Which makes me sad, because the sooner I can ditch my Autodesk overloads, the better. Although if Autodesk ever watch this and want to give me free software like the Foundry do, that'd be very much appreciated, thank you. I literally paid for a refresh to my Maya license like a few days ago, and it really hurt. Because it still has to go through my UK bank account, because of the way all the accounts are set up. And obviously I'm not getting paid into my UK account anymore, which is kind of sad to watch the money dwindle over time. Okay, so that should be good enough. Let's get that exported. Export, current channel. And because of the way this is set up, we can just immediately test render this. Oh, so GPU renders that exceed VRAM just fail immediately. That's not good. We need to up that density a little bit, I think. Oh, that's looking a lot better though. Still a bit too thick, I think. Blender Foundation might give you a free blend if you reach out. Fuck off, Ryan. Gotta really use my industry contacts to do that, man. I'm not sure. Not sure I'm big enough in the industry to get free Blender yet. Although I remember seeing like cracks for Blender a little while ago, and it oh Jesus, it broke me. Like, there's literally the whole point of Blender is that it's free, and there's people out there like, oh, I need to download it illegally. Like, I mean, you do you, but like, come on, dude. Okay, let's go a little bit lower on the thickness, and I'm gonna increase the density by 0.2. So 20% increased density and another. Oh Christ, like 15% increase, decrease in width. Bad maths. I don't do maths. This is the reason I almost failed school. I'll say almost failed. I did fairly well in school. I did fail college. I am not a smart boy. If CG ever collapses, I am fucked. Okay, there we go. I need to make a clump map, don't I? So I stop all this shit from clumping. Okay, let's create a new channel. Okay, channel. This one will be for eyelashes C01 mask. All these are 4K. I really don't need them to be 4K. And compression is pretty good in Mari, but like, yeah. Okay, let's create a paint node. I can always resize them if I need to. Paint. Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's go in. I wonder if there's a way to make the brush like object space rather than screen space. Okay, I'm gonna go with an organic brush for a moment. And I need to go with pepper, as always. Tool properties. Let's go with position jitter, increase that up. Okay. Well, that will do. Export flattened, export crunch flattened. Get into Maya. Okay. So let's get into eyelashes. I'm going to create a new. Let's think about this. Yeah, I just need to put that into weight. So grab this guy. Need to put that into both of them. And we'll call that one C01 mask. Put that into weight. Okay, there we go. So now we need to update the density map a little bit, but let's just get that exported first. And then I think we need a bit more guide work to make it interesting. We also need a scraggle on the clumps. Okay, CO1 mask. Do you have adaptive displacement? I think Arnold does, but I haven't used it. Okay. It's breaking again. Why does it do that? .4 is oddly specific. Don't mean to do that, but we'll keep it. parameter worked a lot. Oh no, there it goes. Okay. I hate the fact I can't just merge these two together. What I can do to get around that? I can decrease the amount of CVs. Because these shapes are quite simple anyway, and that will force them to not be able to kink. Yeah, that works. There we go. Okay, let's go with one relaxed iteration. It's just immediate. Ugh, I hate this so much. Literally, all we can do is like multiply the length and the width by the mask to just make them invisible. But it's so wasteful. And if it's all we can do, it's all we can do. But like, I don't like it. Let's just do it. I don't like it, but I just have to. Okay, so we're going to plug you into width multiplier. Oh, length multiplier even. There we go. And we need to plug it into the width as well. Yes, he doesn't like being duplicated out. Really doesn't like it. There we go. Okay. So we need to plug this into float 1. Then multiply by float 1. Multiply by $F1. Okay. I hate it, but it's what I gotta do. Okay, so let's get that exported. Yeti export growing from selected Yeti node. Okay, there we go. Let's give that a try now. Oh, so adaptive subdivision, just so you know, Oscar, is basically render engines are capable of render engines are capable of subdividing different parts of the mesh depending on camera distance. At least quite a lot of them are. Not all of them are, but a lot of them can. Well, that's working a bit better. You need to up the density though. Yeah, that's up the density. But yeah, I think there's a way to do it in this. The only problem I'll run into, and possibly the reason that I won't use adaptive subdivision is, and I guess auto bump will kind of help, but because displacement drives so much of the way skin looks in terms of like the specular, it can be quite destructive. So if you lose polygons, you naturally lose displacement, which changes the way that the reflections happen. And so you end up with this really vicious cycle of like, your guy just gets glossier and glossier as you get away from camera. I think this works. I can check if yeah, there is adaptive. I'm guessing this is a max iterations. Okay, there we go. So let's view this from distance. We may need to check out the peach fuzz again. That's actually... Okay, let's save our scene. We're going to save this as is. File, save as. Add a new number. I want to try to make a nice little surface shader for our eyebrows, or for our eyelashes even. So you'll see why I like doing this in a moment. Let's pick this section right here. And let's go into groom materials. I'm going to create a eyelash material, duplicate. Eyelash material. We'll go down to wherever that is, eyelash material. Okay, we'll just move this out of the way. I'm going to create a surface shader. Okay. So get that assigned. Let's just go eyebrows, duplicate that. Okay. Delete that one. Delete that one. Cool. Scene graph. Okay, so this will render as a solid tube now. There we go. Okay, so this is what I'm going to target right here. This effect. So let's get that back over there. In fact, I'm going to dock that. Okay, there we go. So we're going to go in, make this shade like glass, and color it. So the colors have to be kind of crazy, honestly. But they're so sensitive. Something like that we'll do as a first pass. Go into the roughness. We're going to change that to be closer to that of keratin. Roughness like that would be fine for now. sort of see how this works. Or if I'll end up going back to the standard hair material. Okay, let's try putting that back to default. That's rendering super dark. Okay, so it is working. So let's try keeping the value the same, but just tinting it. Could you try to explain the effect that you're trying to replicate? Okay, so quick lesson about hair shading. Hair is essentially little glass tubes. There's a few exceptions to that. Mainly animal hair or any hair with a medulla, which is like a center bit. But basically, it shades as a tube of glass. And what you're seeing here is essentially... How can I explain this? So I'm not in explain mode right now. I'm going to struggle to explain this. Trying to think. This image isn't the best one to show it. This one is very subtle. Basically, so you see how some of these, they have this kind of like bright streak in them. You can actually see bits of skin in, that's kind of gross. You have this like kind of bright streak with like dark sides. Think of like a glass or something, how you get that kind of dark edge in the refractions. This is the effect. Currently, Arnold's hair shader doesn't really do that. It kind of flattens it out, so you lose a lot of this. It's incredibly subtle, but I feel like it could make a small difference. And that's what I'm going for in this project, so... If I go back to the hair shader... well, that's actually too far gone, but... Okay, so that's a bit too red. This is going to be so hard to control. We do need to enable caustics for this to work. In fact, while this renders to get something relatively clean, realize his mustache is where you can see it clearest. So if we, from a distance, obviously it just looks like hair, right? If we zoom into a white hair, it looks kind of solid with slightly black outlines. You can see it here especially. You see this kind of like solid white core with the black outlines. I'm still trying to research to find out what that white core is, because it looks like a medulla, but as far as I'm aware, human hair doesn't have a medulla. So it's kind of confusing. White hair always seems to have one though, but if we zoom into like these darker hairs, you see how the hairs individually have like these really bright highlights, and the kind of like messy speck. That is what I want to recreate. And I'm only going to do it in my eyelash shader, just because doing it in everything else is a little bit too overkill, and it's really unwieldy to control. So I want to go in and don't want to do that. Okay, so let's reduce this. Let's go like 1, half the roughness. Just want to see what it does. So the more we increase the roughness, the flatter it becomes. What was the time you used medulla? Yeah, so that's the correct one. Basically, the medulla is like a porous core within the hair, found most commonly in thick furs, so that of animals. I really can't find any consistent documentation on human hair. So, like, if we actually have one of that. There we go. Getting a little bit of stuff going on now. Okay, this is a little bit bright for my tastes. And a little bit too saturated as well. So let's step down the saturation. Let's go like 2.5. And we'll step down the value just slightly. Let's go with 6.5. It's just insanely sensitive, so I need to be very careful with the value changes. Just a disclaimer, I would never ever shade hair like this in production. Like ever. It's just pointlessly difficult to control. There we go. So I'm going to increase the value a little bit. Let's go 6.9. Nice. And we got a bump map in there now as well. Seems like we have it too. The guy with the beard, you could clearly see it. Or is it different inner core? So there isn't a different inner core, as far as I know. So when I say inconsistent, I can only really see it on hairs that are white. And obviously, like, if we have it in the white hairs, we have it in the other hairs as well, because the whiteness is just a lack of pigment. But there's been a lot of documentation I've found where they're like, oh yeah, humans tend not to have medullas. So I don't know if it's like a percentage chance that we have it, like not all hairs will have it. I really don't know. It's something I want to search up a lot. If I wanted to do that in my shader, it would get a little bit insane. Oh, there we go. That's working quite nicely. Don't get sampled away, please. Fuck! This is weirdly regular. Let's just see how it looks from a distance. Well, I'll say from a distance, with the full eye in view. And then we'll do a test render with the full thing. Getting per hair variation in this isn't too difficult, in terms of like getting the color variation. The problem with this surface shader approach is it's really difficult to map, not because you can't apply maps, because that's actually really easy. More because the colors that you see, the colors that you perceive, are so different from the colors that you enter into the shader. Like, unless I figured out exactly what the difference is and added a color correct to compensate for it, which would be like 4D chess, like not the easiest thing to do. I'd assume how the light hits the hair also has an impact. Oh yeah, as all things with shading, it would have quite a large impact. Oh, okay, so human hairs have a medulla as well, it's just a fundamentally different structure from that of creature fur. Okay, that's good to know. How would you create the inner core? Yeah, so you couldn't do a fall off in terms of like a Fresnel effect, because that would then imply that if a camera, if the hair is pointing towards a camera, the entire hair would be a medulla. So to get it to work, you'd have to do a ramp around the hair, and I'm not sure how you'd do that. The easier way, although it would be a fucking nightmare, is to duplicate the hair, give it a more narrow width, and then shade that differently, and that would give you the medulla effect. It'd be very easy, but a fucking nightmare to get it looking exactly how you want, but it'd be easy to set up. Easy to set up, entirely different thing to control. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on my materials again. So this is actually shading pretty similarly, so I might go back. Let me preview like just these hairs. So these are using the hair shader that's built into Arnold. Let's see how these ones render. If it's not that different, I'll just go back to using the hair shader. These render a lot quicker. They do render kind of flat. Granted, I've done a little bit of a trick that kind of helps with the flatness. Raskin Fervor and human hairs do not generally have a medulla, but they do have one. And it'll be one of those three structures. Okay. Right, we'll go back to the hair shader. Let's just keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid, as they would say. So we got the eyebrow material. Let's duplicate that. Put that down here. Although for now, I could probably just apply. No, we'll keep it as a separate material. Let's create a mix. Mix shader. Shader 1. Okay, there we go. Set that to additive, and we'll keep the blend at 0.5, or the mix at 0.5, so we're not reflecting too much light. I want less white house, so we're going to grab that. That's just a clamp, okay. Let's rename that. to do that. Okay, so let's make it so it's like 8% of hairs. Okay, there we go. And let's make them a tiny bit darker. Oh, we need to rename that too. Okay, let's get into the color. Okay, start with a slightly deeper base color. So the medulla is not medulla. Meniscus is very softly displaced here. Barely displaced at all here. That doesn't blend. That's fine. That's what we expect. My displacement might be a bit much then. That's why normal's doing. Yeah, my displacement is a bit much. Let's go to the meniscus shader. Meniscus. Okay, get to this guy. We're going to decrease the. Oh, that's actually displacing quite a lot. We're going to decrease the variation a little bit. So let's just go. Which way around is this? I think as you increase it, it gets smaller. So let's go 7.5, sorry. Let's see what that does. Do you do that in shading, or do you have Geo? Do you have Geo for the watery boundary? You have Geo. Okay, so I need to go the opposite way. Let's go 2, 2, 2. Geometry is the easiest way to do that. It just complicates rigging a little bit. But riggers are really good at just doing what they need to do. Like, they're incredible at it, actually. Okay, it's a little bit too low frequency now. So let's go like 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. Then once I got that right, I can set the strength of it a little bit. Now I need to update the geometry at some point to help it blend. Okay, it's looking a bit more accurate. So let's get into the displacement strength. So it is floating away from the eye a little bit. Something I kind of want to do as well. Let's go into the transmission of this guy. What's my spec roughness set to? 164, okay. We're going to add a little bit more to this. And this is a complete bullshit hack, but might give me what I want. adding roughness to the transmission but not the specular will essentially act as a blur. Anything behind it will get blurred. Although I do have to be careful with that, because that will pick up any texture detail in the eye and obliterate it. But yeah, it's not worth it. Okay, so this is a bit flat, isn't it? The geometry itself I need to change. Okay, let's do that. It's actually not touching. Oh yeah, the iris is sculpted. I did that on the parrot. I will be resculpting the iris though for this project, because I don't want to reuse it too much. The iris is quite complex in this scene. There's actually 3 geometries for it. If you want to be really disappointed in me, I can show you something even worse. So watch this. I'm gonna isolate the eyes. Oh, isolate is what I wanted to do. Okay, so if I hide, go into this, select the left eye. Give us a moment to do this thing. This is really struggling. Nice. Hey, there we go. So I'm going to unhide that. I'm going to hide the stroma. This is where it gets gross. We got all the fibers of the eyes actually modelled in. And they're rendered in the eye. So they are actually in the scene. My current eye in Katana has no textures for color. All the details coming from geometry. And I'll show a high res at some point soon. Let me just fix this up first. How do you use the fibers? They're just imported as an alembic and then rendered as a tube. There's no like fancy tricks to it. Right, so I'm going to try something here. I'm going to give this a thickness. Let's do that. I'm going to have to spend quite a considerable amount of time getting this to look right later. But let's just try that. I'm going to also fix this. So let's get that re-exported. Let's go to cache, Alembic, export the selection to Alembic. Might not be able to save. Yeah, it didn't save. That's to be expected though. So I'll go to cgraph, flush caches, cache, Alembic, export selection. Oh, something bright to call it. No, so okay, I'll start a render of my eye with shaders, and I'll explain the setup while it renders, because there's quite a lot to the setup. So let's just go into our material assign. I'm gonna alt save this first, so I can close it. Okay, so we're gonna get into here. We're going to enable all of our materials. Okay, save my scene. And I'm going to start a render. So, eye anatomy lesson. Basically, the eye is really fucking complex. So I'm going to go back to the site. I'm going to look for someone with blue eyes, because blue eyes are the easiest to show this with. So, let's go with this dude. So, lighting's not great. Oh, this is badly stitched. So I'm going to check the other eye. The other eye's better. Okay, so the eye, or the iris, is, from a CG artist perspective, 3 different layers. There is a back layer, which is very, very heavily pigmented. So the back of the iris is like super dark. The shape of that, if I go in and create a snipping tool. So I'm gonna capture this. So from a side view, or from a bottom view, sorry, our eye looks like that. And then you got a pupil, which comes in like that. And then let's just count it up. And then you got that actual like pupil hole. So this bit right here is see-through. Let me just connect this up. So you got stuff like that. Okay, and that will do. So this is the back of your pupil. This is your sclera, and then this is the cornea, right? So this is the see-through bit. This is the pupil. This is the iris. So this backside, which is incredibly thin, I've not painted it thin enough, is really dark. This little lip here, you can actually see, especially in blue eyes, and it's called the pupillary ruff. Pupillary ruff is this brown ring, which you can see here. I'm not sure how well it comes through in stream. You should see this side. You may not see this side like I can, but the blue ends and it attaches to this like little dark ring. That is the pupillary ruff, and that is the back of the iris wrapping around. So the reason it wraps around is for the layers of muscle and connective tissue and all that sort of shit. So the lines that you see are a mixture of capillaries, and not capillaries, sorry, a mixture of like muscle fibers and some other stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what that is, but you're essentially seeing little muscle fibers. There's other stuff in there as well. I just can't remember the naming. So there's little muscle fibers. I'm going to switch to the color blue. Will kind of connect to this inner edge here and help it pull. Now there's two there's two muscle directions in the eye, and they tend to end around here. So fibers that are inside the circle actually compress sideways. So they pull. When they compress, they kind of fold up on themselves. I'm not sure mechanically how the fuck that works. It's just something I've seen from a lot of eye anatomy lessons. Outside that ring, oh god, that was awful. Yeah, so there we go. So inside the ring, the muscles compress by kind of rolling onto themselves. So it kind of like spins and like pulls that way by doing that. Outside that ring, the muscles retract this way. With the combination of the two of those, you can control your pupil. All of this is fully subconscious, sorry. But those are the two muscle directions. I don't know if that relates to this change in texture that most eyes have, where they kind of get a little bit more tubular in this area. I don't know if that's related. Possibly, I'd assume it is. But that's like the kind of muscle layer, right? The little lines that you see. And those are what I've got curves for. Although I do need to do a second pass because my curve's a bit too simplistic. There is a third layer. The third layer varies very drastically between eye types. So you may not know this. Eye color is a complete illusion in that blue eyes aren't blue eyes. They are just eyes with less pigment. Kind of like how the sky is blue. The sky isn't in of itself blue. It just doesn't scatter blue light as much. Like it's not got an inherent color, which is why it can change so much through the day. That's why, another reason, blue eyes can actually change color quite a lot depending on light and situation. So blue eyes let more light through them. But what's letting more light through it? Obviously the back layer is super dark, so that's not doing it. The layer that's letting light through it, if it's blue, is called the stroma. So the stroma I'm going to highlight in red. And the stroma is big fuzzy stuff which basically fills this entire region. So it's above, it's behind, it's basically anywhere in front of this back layer to the front of the iris is stroma. And it's kind of this like foamy mess of connective tissue. It's not solid at all. Now, blue eyes have much less pigment in them, which means you can see further through blue eyes than you can brown eyes. So because of this, I'm rendering the stroma as a volume shader. Basically, blue eyes have less density, so I've just changed the density. If we go to some brown eyes, or even if we look on this, you can see how all these fibers are very, very visible until they reach these brown sections. They are not visible at all behind the brown sections. So if I go to a different image, so let's go to like this guy's brown eyes, you can see where the eye gets browner, these lines get hidden again. But it's not just this inner ring. You can also see like there's these little brown patches where the fibers behind them become more hidden. Let's see if there's anyone with a really extreme case of this. Because people with like dark colors in their eyes, it's really, really cool. I don't want to use that guy as an example. Let's try this guy's eyes. There you go. So you see how you can see all these fibers, but as soon as you get to these brown patches, you can't see the fibers anymore. That is directly because of having more pigment in the stroma. It just completely hides completely hides all these little fibers. If we find someone with brown eyes, you'll see how differently eyes render. So she's a good example. So you'll see with her, the fibers are actually barely visible at all. Like, they're really not visible. So this stroma layer, as I said, as you get a darker eye color, it gets more kind of opaque. So essentially more dense from a volume shader perspective. But those fibers are still there. Like, they're still entirely there. So the way that you render it varies quite a lot. There's also, because it's a foam kind of thing, it's not really foam. It does have quite an aggressive bump, like a spongy bump, or displacement, I guess. But it's something that it would be there. You can see it here actually. It would be there on blue eyes as well, but because blue eyes are so much more sparse in a kind of volume density, you can't see them. There's just not enough definition. But yeah, that's a very quick crash course on eyes. Three other bonus facts. Pupils aren't circle. Irises aren't circle. They're always like kind of squished. And there's these rings that travel around the eye. Turns out these are on most eyes. I thought that my previous projects, the ref I had like some kind of disease or like kind of bad genetic condition, but no. Turns out most eyes have this. There's some kind of really tiny rings that go around it. They're just really hard to see on blue eyes, like extremely hard, but they are still there. And then if I go to this guy, you can see it on this guy's a little bit of something. These rings tend to show up quite a lot. I don't know if it's specifically because of the muscle action. You can see it really clearly on this side. I also don't know if this is a displacement or if it's a density change. Because of the way volume shaders work, it's kind of both, but in real life I'm not sure. Oh yeah, and another bonus fact, the pupil isn't in the middle of the iris. It's almost never in the middle. In fact, this guy's pupil is very stretched. But yeah, there's a absolute dump of information. Also, these veins look incredibly fake. But yeah, so let's kill that. Let's get back into Katana. Oh, let's save this actually. Okay, close that. Archive it. Probably be heading off pretty soon. Let me just archive this first. Person projects, John Singer Sargent. And then go to texturing, Mari, body, archive. I'll just save that over the one from earlier today. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so this is starting to clean up. So basically my fibers are too straight, too many, and just generally not really varied enough, honestly. Like, it needs to be kind of... They need to interact in some way with this secondary layer of the stroma. But yeah, there you go. That's some eye anatomy for you. So do you scatter fibers inside the eyes, or do you control the eye color by increasing density of the third layer? So the fibers don't contribute too much to the actual color. I'm not sure how those fibers get color. Probably pigment as well. The way I've got my setup going is that my my stroma and my fibers have the same color, and the density of the stroma, as I increase the darkness of it, I will increase the density. But that's something I've not set up yet. But yeah, but you can see how, like, so there's no color maps in this at all. But we've got the pupillary rough starting to show up here because I've got a back layer which is heavily pigmented, and you can see how in areas where the stroma is thicker, like physically thicker, so the outside, we're seeing less of the fibers because they're more obscured. So yeah, that's absolutely zero textures in this right now, other than one displacement map. And displacement map is the rings thing, which you can barely see because it's blue eyes. But I just copied that over from the Pero. But yeah, so I need to increase the density, don't I? Just a little bit. Let's bump that density up a tiny bit. So we're going to go into eyelashes. Density is quite high. Let's go with 1.8. Yeah, so I think that'll probably be it for today's stream. Next stream, which could be tomorrow, not sure yet, will almost certainly be... in fact, actually, do I want to start deep diving some eye shading? Start on the ungodly process of figuring out how to texture the iris. Hey Mike, how do you get the darkening around of people? That's natural. It's coming from the shape. I guess, yeah, we can continue the stream, actually. Yeah, so the dark ring that's occurring, this side, I don't know. Honestly, this side, I can't tell exactly where it's coming from. But this, the kind of darkening, is coming from the fact that the sclera is coming out a little bit further than the iris. The iris kind of sits behind the sclera a little bit, so that allows it to cast shadow on itself. so it does quite a lot of work for me. That also means that it's very sensitive to light angle, which is good because human eyes are very sensitive to light angle. Yeah, so let's start looking at the iris in a bit more detail, shall we? I'm going to prune out a lot of geometry right now. So let's think. Okay, let's throw it down here. Prune. I'm going to prune everything that isn't the eyeball. So we're going to prune the grooms, the caruncle, and the body. And I might prune out the fluid and the cornea as well. Yeah, you can see how the top of the iris is now shading a lot more visibly because the shadow isn't there anymore. I need to prune out the meniscus as well. Okay, so that will prune the other geos. Let's go prune. This one will prune out any eye geometries that we want to get rid of. So let's prune out meniscus geo. And which eye are we looking at right now? This is the left eye, right? So let's go prune out the left eye fluid and cornea. Oh yeah, my cornea, sorry, pupil back, because of a limitation with not doing this entire thing in volume, I can't smoothly blend from the pupil, like the back of the pupil, to the sclera because it's a separate geometry from the rest of the eye, and fuck doing it all as one geometry, that'd be way too difficult to work with. Oh, there's that ring. Oh, it's coming from the eye below it. Alright, cool. That's good to know. But anyway, yeah, so I have a ramp that kind of makes it go from dark to white so that it can blend a little bit better with sclera. And I also have a transparency map to stop it from casting a shadow inside. But yeah, so let this get relatively clean for a moment. So we can use it as a baseline. So much of the way the eye shades comes from the sclera. I also need at some point to pull this out. Let's go to normal. Yeah, we're seeing a bit too much right there. This stuff, yeah, I need to fix this stuff at some point. That is just coming from the geometry, the backplate of the iris. Anyway, we need to start getting some kind of variation into the density first. That's where I'm going to start. So let's go into eye materials. We've got the iris stroma, which currently has a scatter density, volume density, sorry, of 100. So let's just start by creating a layer RGBA. And that will have a base of 100. So base density, and then that will start as 100, 100, 100, 1. Okay, and then this one, let's triple it for now. And just plug that into the density. We need to make sure that clamping is disabled. Good, it is. Let's try rendering that. So this, it has no maps in it, so it will just be way, way darker. The eye white is simply geo, right? Yeah, it is. The rest of the eye is. Although, again, it's one of those, like, there isn't a way that I've found where I can go from, because the cornea and sclera have a thickness to them, and the iris needs to blend to the sclera, so unless I did it all as one geometry, I can't do that properly. But even if I did do it as one geometry, there is a follow-on issue. Is that working? Sorry, 1 second. Let me set these to 1000. Just going to turn off all the other layers. Okay, there we go. Oh, yes, it needs to be set to replace. Or overwrite, even. There we go. Okay, so let's go to... You can see how this is rendering much more solid now. So let's set that to 300. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to create a noise. Cell noise. This is going to go into mix 2. Okay. Render that. Oh, that's not what I want. It's not rendering. Eh? What the fuck? Okay, well. That's super weird. Are you deriving the geo with textures, or are you talking about shading right now? Shading. Because it's a volume, I can't use textures directly. Okay, so let's add a few. Okay. Disconnect that. I'm just going to do a range. Need to clamp the output of this guy. Did it move? It didn't. Okay. We're not clamp output? Okay. We don't need to clamp that. Because it's a mask, we don't want it to go above or below 0. Below 0 or above 1. So let's go to the range. Let's go 0.6 and 0.65. Why not mesh? I can show you, because my last project actually shows why a mesh doesn't work. So, if we go to this guy, subsurface, yeah, softer edges is the reason. Subsurface basically doesn't handle light in the same way that a volume does. So if light goes through a volume, pigment is part of the reason. But obviously I could fake the look of volumes quite easily with this stuff. Basically, what you're seeing right here is subsurface going almost directly through an object. Now, in the world of subsurface, that means it's super bright. But in the world of volumes, it just means it blocks less light. It doesn't make it super bright. So this sort of stuff wouldn't occur with a volume. And this is an artifact. And it's unavoidable, I think, with subsurface. Maybe diffusion would get around it, but then diffusion fucks up everything else. So it's just something to be aware of, basically. Okay, let me just make this even smaller. Let's go 0.7, 0.68. In fact, let's go 7.5, and then 0.74. Just make things super sharp. Okay, we'll plug the same thing in to, I'm just going to call this LRGBA LRGBA stroma density. Okay, I'm going to drag all this back here, not you. Next two. Brown spots. Although for now we won't make them brown. We'll set that to 1 and that to 1. Set that to replace. There we go. So this will allow us to get a little bit of variation coming through. We can soften that out by just reducing the range. So if I set that to like 8.5 and set that to 7. No, let's go 7.5. Keep it around the same size but softer. Okay, so the density needs to go up. I'm just going to set that to like 600. Okay. Let's bring these down here. Cell noise, stroma, dark spots. Mask. Oh, Jesus. We can call this iris rather than stroma. Might be a little bit easier for people to read. Making sure other people can read it is helpful. What are you controlling right now? Why is it so red and what are you controlling? Okay, so the reason it's red is because in this iris color, I've added a red layer which has the mask. That same mask is going into the density. So basically what I'm saying is wherever this color is, I want the density up here. Yeah, I just made it red to see where it is. Made it a bit more visible. The nice thing with using these world space noises is this will be different on each eye, just by default. So now that we've got that, we can go in and just make this a little bit more subtle. I'm going to enable display transform for a bit. Stuff like that. Is that very bottom layer super dark? Yeah, it is. So the very bottom layer has its own shader, and the shader is by default very, very dark. Although I need to replace this with a layer texture. Let me just go through, make that a more saturated brown. A little bit more red. You're still working on the volume? Yes, yes I am. Okay, so I need that to be a little bit more defined. Let's go 0.8. So this is twice as tight. So maybe a regular noise would be better suited. Okay, so density of that guy, scale, sorry, is 5. So let's go 5, 5, 5. Add a few octaves, maybe a few more. Add a fair bit of distortion. That looks like it might be interesting. Interesting how much of a shadow it's casting here. So I'm trying to figure out how big does this have to go? Like, is this, in fact, let's set octaves to 1, see what it does. Let's go to 3 octaves. So is the red spot basically a color indicator of certain density threshold exceeded? No, so as you increase the pigment, the color gets darker and the density goes up. So I've got one mask, which is a noise, which goes in to control both the color and the density at the same time. So I made it a really bright color just to make it a little bit more visible to work with. But it didn't need to be brighter. Okay, I'm gonna go a bit smaller on this. Let's go 4, 4, 4. Or a bit bigger even. So this will mean less spots, but the spots that are there are bigger. So we may need to go in and adjust that. Nice thing as well is I can change these, like the brightness of these, to kind of, what do we call it? Oh shit. To like change the strength of the mask as well. Okay, let's try. Let's go like 2, 2, 2. A little bit too big. Let's go 3, 3, 3. Not 33. A bit much. Oh, that's cool. Oh, you were the photographer. Nice. That's really cool, actually. Let's go into there. Oh, that's cool. It's the only place it's visible, so I need to add a bit of offset. Let's go 1 offset. It's not changing. Did it change? Didn't move. Didn't react in any way. Okay. That's interesting. Let's change the time then. There we go. Okay, so let's unhide the stuff that's important for an eye. See how that looks once we add everything else in there. We may need to adjust the colors. We'll find out in a moment. In the meantime, we've archived that. There we go. Is the subsurface radius the same on the chronicle as the skin? Point 1. Okay. Point 1. Okay, we might need to reduce it slightly. Or it could be the colour as well, to be fair. Let's do a render. Okay, so a blend. I'm wondering if there's a way to mix multiple. Oh. I'm trying to think, like, what is the oh, there's a string replace node. That's cool. Don't need that. Okay, I'm gonna start a render that is with everything in it, and then we're going to give it a quick Google. How to blend multiple normal maps in Arnold. I know I can do it with a actual color blend, but kind of don't want to do that as the default. I prefer to use actual like bump blenders. Arnold mix normal maps, because I need to add a detailed normal map. There we go. Okay, so there's a way to do it. We need to go to the skin materials, and basically this is, let's just say 3D scan store skin norm. I want to mix that with a separate read node, which actually I need to create a thing for, so I might do that off stream. Basically, there's a normal map that I can use that has shit. It's a tileable like cell noise almost. In fact, I could do it with a cell noise. Much easier. Alligator noise would work. Let me try something. I'm going to create a flat node. Flat. Oh no, it's not what I want. Cell noise. Okay. This is going to be a alligator. Then this is going to have to go crazy small, but I just want to see how big it is to begin with. Okay, so let's go start with 20 by 20 by 20. This is going to be like a really tiny noise, like extremely small. Did you actually get to do eyes in production as well, or has it always been a passion of yours? I've done eyes in production, nothing too crazy. I did eyes for Creature on the Halo TV series, on one of the brutes. I think it's episode 5. I worked on that one, and yeah, I did eyes for the brute that shows up in that. The big boy. Beyond that, I haven't done many eyes in production, honestly. Okay, let's go a tiny bit smaller. Let's go like 80 by 80 by 80. The whole point of this is for it to be like a very final layer of breakup. Okay. Yep, so that would be the final layer. Alright, cool. So, cell noise. Okay, so we've got a bump, 2D. Then we got normal, which we'll plug in there. Okay, and we have that plugged in on top. Bump height, I'm going to set intentionally too high for a moment. I just want to see if the normal maps stack. Halo TV series, never seen it. I haven't seen it either, actually. It's on Paramount. Okay, so let's go into the last clean render I did with the skin shader. Haven't done any close-up render, okay. Not with the skin shader anyway. Let me set this to 0 for a moment. See if this on its own renders. Interesting, I'm the only viewer. Nice. Yeah, I've had many a stream now where it's like no viewers or just one, and I'm fine with that. As I think I said in previous streams, like if I was streaming for popularity, I would definitely choose a different format. Okay, there we go. So let that get a little bit clean. There we go. I'll let that clean up a little bit. Nothing too much. Just enough where I can see this and specular direct clearly, so maybe one more pass. There we go. That's clear enough for me to start seeing. So 0.001. Just let that finish its thing. So this last noise here is essentially just limited res. I'm just going to add a little layer of detail that this map didn't capture. Because like this map that's been given is really fucking like detailed, like way more detailed than anything I've used before. But it's like not built to hold up at this level of distance. Like this level of distance is like bonkers. Right, so let's try that now. Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't you join to say that you're heading to bed and then you just ended up staying? I'm not complaining, it's pretty funny. Is this more broken up?
Olives had a major run. Maraschino cherries, major run. No one had a run like limes. No one.
Let's go micro skin detail. Tiny difference. It just stops it from being so perfect. And that should make the specular direct look more interesting. Which it does. Maybe it's too small right now? Let's go 60 by 60 by 60. Are you more flexible in lit div you're doing right now in Katana than you would be in Maya? Definitely, yeah. I find the hypershade a lot, well, the node graph a lot easier to use in Katana. The fact it actually remembers your layouts and that sort of shit. Let me just quickly get a catalog. The fact it remembers every single one of your renders is quite helpful as well. Like it literally remembers all of the renders you do for an entire session, which is quite handy. There we go. Let's go specular direct. Let's let that clean up for a moment. But yeah, in terms of look dev, I find it a lot more flexible in that you can set everything up once and then it just kind of stays. So I can do as many model updates as I want. I can, you know, add and remove curves as much as I want for rendering. I can just set things on bulk. So there's nothing stopping me from saying, hey, anything with this name, assign this shader. Whereas in Maya, if I want to assign a shader to lots of stuff, I can either write a script to do the same thing, or I can go in and select all the objects and assign a material, which just gets really tedious. Having this makes it a lot easier. In terms of using it in a home environment, obviously I'm aware that Katana is quite expensive. The only reason I use it again, the only reason I use it at home is because I have been able to get it for free. If there's a non-commercial version, I would absolutely use that. And I do really want to make a non-commercial for more people to learn the tool, and so it'd be very helpful at work if more people knew Katana. There we go, it's starting to work. Let me just try that. Looks like it's working. Yeah, that'll work. Alright, cool. So let's kill that. Do I need to invert it? It's only just dawned on me I might need to invert this. Let me try doing that. So Katana supports every render engine that's out there. It supports all the big ones. I don't know if it supports every render engine, but then I don't think any program supports every render engine. Like Maya still doesn't support FStorm, even though FStorm has been around for a while now. In HAL for a while, V-Ray was exclusively 3ds Max, right? But yeah, all the big ones. I mean, I use Katana and RenderMan at work, which is a really nice combo. Obviously, at home now I use Katana and Arnold, which is, in my opinion, a nicer combo. I do quite like Arnold at the moment. I find it very helpful to use. Alright, specular. Let's go normal. Let's make it a tiny bit deeper. Let's go like 0.2. Okay, so let me go to Daniel Bashang as always. If I find someone that's roughly the age I want. So this guy's a little bit older than my guy. You can see like this really microscopic noise is the one I'm currently trying to get. It's more stretched in some areas, but it's still there. That's what I'm trying to get right now. Looks like it does actually bump out, so actually inverting it is the wrong choice. Let me invert that again. It's crazy the depth where you get to know each one of the tools. When did you get time to learn? So I spend an excessive amount of time doing personal projects for the average person. Most people don't do like at least 10 hours a week of personal work. In this case, I'm going slightly higher than that. In terms of finding time, I mean, something to remember is I have been doing this for 10 years as of this year. So it's not like I've just like picked up CG yesterday and suddenly know it. It takes a long time to learn all this shit, and I've still got a fucking ton of stuff to learn. Oh, that's too strong now. Let's go between those. Cut the difference. Go 1.5. I think the reason I'm able to kind of pick up new tools, it does get like exponentially faster. So when you start off, everything you touch is brand new to you. Doesn't matter what you start with. If you start with Blender, so be it. If you start with Maya, so be it. Like, ideally Houdini, I guess. I still need to learn Houdini properly. I've only done a few projects with it. But the key is that everything is new to you. So topology is brand new to you. UVs, like what the fuck are those? Subdivision, what hell is that? Displacement, why is it different from bump? Bump, how is it different from normals? Everything you come across is a brand new question for you. As time goes on, as you get to know one tool really well, you go to another tool and you see the word subdivision again. You go, oh, I know what that is. You see the word adaptive again. You start to piece things together. So once you've learned quite a few tools, especially over a number of years where the names of things have changed and you've seen the progression of the naming, when you pick up a new tool, you kind of know what to look for. There's kind of curveballs out there. There's definitely a lot of tools that kind of go against all convention. But that's actually working quite well now. Yeah, it's making things a bit more diffuse. Good, good, good. Yeah, anyway. So, at this point, Katana is still quite new to me because it gives you access to a lot of stuff that you don't normally see in, like, other tools like Maya. So, I mean, there's a few things that don't make sense. So, if I go into, and this is on Arnold, not Katana, but if I go to the render settings, something that really threw me for a loop, I've never seen this before, the number of samples for everything is a GI sample. I don't know why. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I still don't understand it, but basically everything is a GI sample. That threw me for a loop. So that you do get some curveballs where, like, why is that any different from every other tool? But ultimately, it doesn't matter that much. I still know vaguely, what a specular sample is. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I've been doing this for 10 years, so at this point, when I see a new software, most of the stuff I see in there is fine. I see it and I just get on with it. Katana I was able to get up and running fairly quickly, even though it's quite different. But, for example, if you look at my experience with Marvelous Designer, I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and that's because there's almost nothing shared between that and tools that I do use. So I'm not able to apply existing knowledge, so you're seeing me basically learn that the way that I learned 3D to begin with. Because I'm not able to apply knowledge other than, general sense of form and that sort of stuff. And a general understanding of how important it is to do things physically based. But beyond that, like, yeah, and I've just been rambling again, haven't I? But yeah, I wouldn't worry about, like, how do you get time to learn all this stuff, because it varies so much from person to person. It's not necessarily time spent, sometimes it's the way that you learn. I'm quite fortunate in that I'm very acutely aware of my learning process, so I'm able to kind of really use and abuse my own learning process to get the most out of the time I do spend. Which, as you guys see through my streams, is literally fucking about. Read a bit of documentation. In my spare time, I will read some more kind of boring papers and, like, physics and anatomy lectures. But, like, I'm aware of what my learning process is, which makes it a lot easier to learn shit. Some people don't know their learning process, and it's really difficult for them to pick up new stuff until they figure it out. I started to divert from 3ds Max. The student license got cancelled for me. I took chances to learn Blender, simply didn't want to repeat all the hate. Something that was pointed out recently, so Blender's fine, by all means use it if you want to. Something that was recently pointed out though, someone made a video on, if you do a Udemy course, it makes you a student for Udemy, and Autodesk recognizes Udemy as a course that allows you to get a student version of Maya. When you get a student version, you get given a year. So you can do like a 6-week course on Udemy and get a full year of free Maya or free 3ds Max. I'll see if I can find it. Because I watched it a few days ago. It was a YouTube video. How to get free Maya Udemy. See if I can find this. Yeah, there it is.
So we're gonna
Posted 4 days ago. It's above board, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it's a loophole or not, but by all means, go check out that video. I haven't tested it for myself, naturally, because I have Maya. But this guy runs a Udemy course, and he shows you in the video, like, oh, if you just go onto this, like, oh no, they removed it 2 days after. Okay. Okay. Interesting. It's not working right now. Hopefully they fix it. But I don't know if it was intentionally taken down. Yeah, I mean, one thing you can do as well is the indie licenses for Autodesk tools are quite cheap. So I just bought another year of Maya for, I think it's £270. It's really hard to find for some reason. If I go search for it now, like, it's on its own separate website, and the website doesn't exactly look legit, but it is actually the real website. I think I feel like they've done that intentionally. Maybe that's just some conspiracy theory nut thing going on, but if I go into Maya Indie and just see what comes up. Yeah, so the site for Maya Indie is what do we call it? Is called makeanything.autodesk.com. This is actually Autodesk, and depending on where you are, ignore this because this is 2019 when they first rolled out Indie, so the gotchas aren't valid anymore. Basically, what used to happen is you got a year of Indie, and then at the end of that year, it would renew at the full commercial cost, which is ludicrous, and I'm glad that they changed that. But you can go on here, and this is $380 for Maya LT. Oh wait, so that's Maya LT. If you go through this, get the Maya Indie, it's a lot cheaper. As I said, I think it's about £270 for a year, which is really, really good. And that's what I use. Might increase the density of the eyelashes a little bit. Maybe increase the width too. Width is feeling a little bit low. Eyelashes. And then let's go 2.1. And I'm gonna put that up a tiny, tiny bit. Okay, start a render, and this is gonna be the last time I hit render because it's almost 9 o'clock. And it is a bank holiday tomorrow, so I don't have to go and work, but I do want to finish streaming before an unreasonable time. And I guess I have already been streaming for 3 hours and 45 minutes. But we've made a good bit of progress. We've done an eyelash groom, we've updated the UVs on the sculpts, as well as done some very, very tiny sculpt changes. Eye shader's been updated, eyelash shader's been updated, meniscus model has been updated. So we've made some good bit of progress. I think I'm happy to kind of push forward on the next stream onto doing some color maps for the skin. Next stream might be tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it'll be Tuesday night. But yeah. I guess that's it. I know I'm just running on really low limits cash-wise. So that's fair enough, man. I sit here all day learning this stuff, seeing how many hours I can currently put into it. Having a full-time job outside of 3D World wouldn't. It's cut off. But yeah, no, that's fair enough. If you don't have the money for it, that's understandable. I mean, Blender's free, and in terms of free tools, Blender is incredible. It will teach you all of the basics, all of the fundamentals that you need to know. It's by no means perfect, and you know, there's that kind of famous Blender fanboy versus Maya fanboy war that goes on. Blender isn't a piece of shit, it's just got a lot of small issues that kind of throw people off. But it is, you know, I mean, it's fairly stable and that sort of stuff, and it is more well-rounded. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to end the stream here, just because I'm going to go play some video games while this renders. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I've definitely enjoyed this stream. And should be streaming soon-ish to do some more color work for the skin. That'll be a lot of fun to start. But yeah, anyway, that'll be it. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will say goodbye. Bye, guys.